Okay, so let's do tonalization before we play on you to tune. Sorry, did you tune?
Yes.
Yes. Alright, we'll have another bow. Feel the pulse inside yourself. Bach Bourree, let's do the, I'm going to show you rather, the double stop tonalization. Do you know this already?
No.
Do you know this already? Okay, so if you do, the first time you do it with students, you want to do broken steps. So, can I? Yeah, of course. So one note, two notes. Tuesday morning, having played one thing already. Oh no, we played Lightly Road, that must be why. Okay, and then that turns into normal double stops. Etc. As a note, if you're going to teach this to your students, the minor is easier because the octaves are next door to the finger that you've already got down. So if you're starting off doing tonalization double stops with your students, I think the minor is a better way to start. I think most of mine probably learn that in book 4 in preparation for sites 3 rather than in preparation for this, but if you've got a mixed group, you know, you can push it a bit earlier for the kids who haven't done it yet. Alright, so could you put that on the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
And can you all learn that, please, if you don't know already? And let's play Bach Bourree. Oh, what's that noise that just stopped? I hadn't even noticed. Yeah.
There's a fan outside.
Ah, I hadn't even noticed that it was there, but now I'm like, oh, that's nicer.
I won't pass it on the way out.
It's a dance, just as a reminder. I was just thinking,
Massive hoop.
whew, yeah, maybe it wasn't just me then.
That's good.
Alrighty, so Devon, tell us something you think is going on in this piece.
Lots of dynamics,
Yeah.
lots of loud, quiet
As in echoes.
echoes, yeah.
Where?
Like 4 or 5. 5 or 6.
What do you think an echo is? Well, no, you know what an echo is. You just
Yeah.
said it.
Yeah.
Bar 5, 6 doesn't go loud then quiet, does it?
I mean, it's not a full echo, but I would say there's a bit of phrasing, like.
You're thinking of exactly what I'm pleased that you're thinking about, but you've got the wrong word for it.
Okay.
Joe, can you help?
Voicing?
Voicing.
Voicing, okay.
So you've got like a duet within this one line.
Mm.
Dee 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 da dum da 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 dee, and then in between dee 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 dee, this like unimportant F sharp G thing happening over and over again. So that's voicing. An echo would be
More like 4 or 5, isn't it?
yeah, or like where you have very similar music,
Right.
you know, and then it's quiet.
Okay.
The second time. Good. So voicing is a really important thing in this piece, and you have it, you know, all the way through, really. It's not just a crescendo where every note is slightly louder than the one before, because that would be. Quite boring. And just the wrong style, yeah?
So, how do you mark it in the music that it's one?
I've just done it with the lines.
So kind of like. Yeah, so more emphasis maybe on
Yeah.
one part than the other.
I don't know if they'll be able to see that.
So if we did it again.
It's that line too. Da da dee 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 dee. You see what I've done?
Sorry, here?
Bar 5.
Oh, you're right, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can also do these little like hats on the really important notes. But if you put a hat on every note that's a voice, that's voiced as more important than the rest of it, you just end up with like an impressionist painting on your page. So I would put like the orange hat I've got in bar 7. That's where you're going towards, isn't it? And
Orange
then
hat.
those two.
Sorry.
Just like a little sort of firework on top, just to show that it's an important note. Doesn't have to be orange, doesn't have to be, you know, just something to bring our attention to it. So who can find another place where the voicing is happening? Kit? 25. Excellent, that's the same music, just over a string, good. Joe, another place?
Oops, sorry, that one could make
Where the
it.
voice, oh sorry, you don't have your book.
Yeah, I left them at home. This is one day I did that. So it's 25. 21.
Yes, exactly. You're basically in this Baroque music, it's very unlikely that you're going to have, especially in a dance, something where like 4 quavers at equal weight. It's going to have more or less in there somewhere. So yeah. Exaggerated, but you kind of, with the students, you definitely want to practice exaggerating it so that then they can refine it rather than trying to get to a refined version first time, because they just won't be able to do it.
Would you use a travelling bow for the lower voice of that bit? For the crescendo? Would you push?
Crescendi is,
Crescendo, sorry.
yeah. Where do you mean? Can you play what you mean for me? That bit I just played?
Yeah.
only can use if you've got to move from one end to the other and you've got uneven bowing and you've got even bowing, or you've got uneven bowing, like 3 downs. So if you had, you'd either do a travelling bow towards the tip, there, because you've got to come back, because you've been taken to the tip by uneven bow lengths, and then so you've got to travel back so you can do the full crotchet. But if you've got even notes like this, it's not a travelling bow, it's just bigger and smaller bows.
Right.
Travelling bow means that gradually you're going to move from one place in your bow to the other,
Yeah.
one way or another.
Because I was just thinking more in terms of to get bigger so you don't end up at the tip.
No, but you're not going to, because you've got too big and too small each time.
Okay.
So it's like, if you were going to measure it,
Yeah.
it's even, even though it's not every note the same, it's pairs, so it works out.
Okay.
Whereas if you had then you'd have to do a travelling zigzag bow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Good. What is the sort of voicing situation in the number 2?
It's a bit more fluid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's much more even. So if we're thinking of voicing as having these extra notes in between the tune notes that kind of make it sound like an important voice and a less important voice, that's not really what happens in the second Bourree, is it? And that's partly because it's minor, it's more lyrical, it's more reflective. So for example, we're not playing like that would be horrible. So it's much more smooth gradations of dynamic, whereas in the first you've got loud, quiet, quiet, loud, loud, quiet, quiet, loud, loud, quiet, quiet. Quite a lot. Is this making sense?
Do you ever have more than 2 voices?
An argument, perhaps?
Bach Bourree. But I think, I mean, I'm kind of being slightly facetious. I think even in that, or the Vitali that you're doing, I think you would still say like, it's mostly 2, because if it becomes like the dominant voice, the slightly less dominant voice, and the least dominant voice, then it's just music, isn't it? Like you can't really hear that unless it's really slow. You can't. I don't think most ears can hold sort of 3 tunes.
Yeah, but the
So I
musician
think-
might have still done it.
You compose, yeah.
I can't think of any music that I know, including those chacons actually, where I would say,
It's obviously more than 2.
yeah. I mean chords, but that's a different kind of voicing, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, like, so there's chacon, like, that's 3. But I think these are the least important. Those are the most important. It's still a dominant and a less dominant.
Is that the chacon that what's the name? Einstein.
At that time, Isaiah.
Einstein played.
Oh, probably.
Probably.
I'm sure he did. I don't know.
Because he apparently had one chacon, Bach chacon, that was his like.
There's only one Bach chacon.
Oh, there is. Okay.
This is
And there's a really nice. Hang on, is it the Vitali that starts like this? It's not, is it? It's another one. Beaver. It's gorgeous. Anyway, that's a nice one for students, but this is not level 3, especially not level 2. Okay, so the minor is kind of easier for the kids to make musical because it's much more similar to what they've done before. This voicing thing is quite difficult for them to get, and often they only get it in review, and that's completely fine. The bow distribution is slightly more complicated in the second gavotte because So for example, bar 9, you've got to go to the tip, stay at the tip, this. They're not used to kind of doing a bunch of notes at one end of the bow. They're used to kind of either using the whole bow quite evenly or like saving, like if you think about humoresque, then they're coming back as soon as they can. They're not comfortable sort of staying up there. So that's a slightly new thing. And of course, they've got to get to the tip, otherwise they run out of bow then. Have we put in the tick boxes?
I've got them.
When I say we, I've got them, so you. Devin, have you got your tick boxes in?
No.
Have you got them in for the other pieces yet?
Yes.
Good, great, okay. Hannah, have you got them as much as you
I haven't got them for this piece, no.
want them? Okay, we'll go through them. So obviously memory, tone, intonation, it's kind of always there. Trills, dance style, bowing. There are some strange bows in this. Boxes, obviously. Phrasing, string crossing, dynamics, and tempo.
Well, can you go from
Sorry.
boxes again?
Boxes, phrasing, string crossing, dynamics, and tempo.
I noticed you sped up, or we sped up a little bit when we went back to the first Bourree.
Yeah,
Is that, I mean, that would happen in the dance world that I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that generally dolce is one of those things that people often mean as a change in tempo as well as a change in mood. And the minor ones would generally go a little bit more steadily. And then also you've got a slight writ towards the end of the second time of the second part of the minor. So then you would have a sort of mini ending. So it's not faster than the first time through, but it's more like the second Bourree is a little bit slower.
Oh, okay. It felt like it was faster than the first time through, but it felt right.
I might have done that. Might have been trying to
Yeah.
G everyone up a bit.
G.
So phrasing has got the voices kind of implicit within it, but if you want to put voicing, obviously that's totally fine, lovely. And then the practice box. So sorry, before we do that, Devin, what do I always say about the boxes, tick boxes? In terms of for you as teachers, what do you need to bear in mind?
Oh, that you adapted to the student. Yeah.
Top marks, well done. Yeah, exactly. So it's not that you would necessarily put all of those in, it's quite a lot, but pick which ones you need. And I've also got unaccompanied performance for graduation. This is the graduation piece. It was written by Bach for unaccompanied cello. I think it's horrendous that there's a piano part. I understand it's useful as a sort of tool that is like a bit more of like a musical version of a metronome to keep the kids in time or help them play the right speed or whatever, but to perform it with that, just it's really awful.
So for graduation or for
So for graduation you are now allowed, both you are allowed to choose which one you want. I would very much be upset if either of you wanted to play it with the piano in exam. Because you're both good enough violinists to play a piece unaccompanied. And that's, you know, that's the whole point of it. Like, that's what it was written for. It's bad enough that we've stolen the cello piece, which I don't understand either. There are so many great unaccompanied violin pieces that we could adapt to be easy enough for end of book 3.
You probably just liked it.
Probably, yeah. Probably. Anyway, so in terms of practice boxes, we are going to get violins in a minute and talk through these, but let's just put them in from the beginning until the last beat of the second bar. So that's 110 box, and that's a preview box, which we're going to talk about in a minute. What's that look for?
No, it wasn't for you, it's for me.
Okay. And then the second box just leads straight on from that to there. And I've got that as a 5 box because it's not as hard. And once they've got how the first one works, they'll be able to do that much more easily.
It's just the first one on preview box.
Yeah. Then, the last beat of 10. Kit, why do we need that in a box?
Bowing,
Yes, and?
string crossing,
Yes, and? Well done, you're nearly there.
the high three,
Yes, give it its proper name, please. What notes it playing? The high 3.
the note, D sharp.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Top marks. Very good. And then the next box is straight from there.
With the previous box, how many reps would you do?
7.
And this
Very much depends on the child. If you've got a student who's really resistant to boxes, you know, I think 7 would be a minimum, but lots of students by this point are so used to them, they'll just bang out 5 or 10, depending on whether it's hard or easy, and whether they play 5 or 10. Whether they find this hard or easy is up to, you know, probably how many other boxes they've happily done, but you know how good their yellow with a hot pink 3 finger patterns are.
and this one here.
Next one, not that hard. It's mostly, because the string crossing is weird, so probably a 5 box. Especially if they've done good work on the box we've just talked about for the D sharps, then their D sharps should sort of be set for this box. And then this is the other preview box. At least 10 and maybe more. And then for most of my students, there isn't anything that everyone always needs in the second bourrée. So obviously, if a child is having a problem with a bit, you put it in a box. But there's not a bit that screams out as being troublesome in the second bourrée. Please write breathe at the end of the first page, because there's got to be a sense of coming to the end of something and then starting something new, even though it's not the end of the piece. And one of the things that's really difficult for them in terms of the dynamics is to finish each section quiet. And I noticed we weren't very good at that as a group either. So every part finishes quiet, doesn't it? Which is really hard for them to do. They've spent however many years it's taken them to get to Bach Bourree, learning how to play with the bigger and better sound all the time. And then this is kind of the point, sort of starting in Gavotte in G minor, but really this is the first time where their dynamics haven't conformed to sort of, what did Helen call it, organic dynamics, where you think you're going to the end, so make a show of it. And then in book 4, one of the big things that they find difficult in book 4 is to learn how to play quietly in the quiet sections, because it's all been in, elbow, you know, squeezy bow hand, get close to the bridge, that big Suzuki tone, and then it's like, oh, good, now you've got that. Shut up. It's hard. Okay, so let's all get violins and we'll just talk through how you'd approach these boxes.
Are there any boxes on the second page?
No,
Okay.
not automatically. What's doing your head in? Oh, left-hand table.
It's alright, okay.
Might be worth swapping. beginning, and this is what we would be doing if they had not started the piece yet, so as preview, yeah, to get ready for this, lovely. So first of all, we've got to be really clear that we're doing an upper note trill, and first of all, you're going to just teach it as like that, right? So how I would, I'm just going to do my turn, your turn. This is what I would do with the students. Okay, so my turn. Ready? Ready? Play. Good. And if they're not perfectly in tune, you would talk about ringing notes and finding the intonation. Okay, so when they're ready to go on. Ready? Play. And most of my kids, I think, will lift in between the up bow and the second down bow. Let's do a few more. Good. And now you're going to come back to that G. So keep your 2 on. Keep it on. Keep your 2 down. Good. Keep going. Excellent. 2 more. 1 more. Sorry, no, that was not anything to do with us. That was just a big piece of wood just fell over outside. Good, and then I'm going to add the last few notes which go like this. Ooh. If they can't pick up that many notes at a time, obviously you just keep adding one at a time, but I think most of them will be able to, especially if they've been doing their listening. So from low G, lovely, and then we do that lots of times. Okay, so that's the preview box that they would end up doing that 5 times, maybe 10 times, not even worrying about how does it relate to the piece, you just do that while they're on Bach or what's in D. Yeah? Good, and then the other preview box is the extension. Kit, what would be a good piece to do review of the extension for? Or Devin, first to the answer gets 1,000 brownie points.
Right, so again, so right, sorry.
To review extensions, which piece would you use?
I know.
You're both doing very well. Good. Can you name that piece?
No, not without looking.
Go on, Hannah.
It's not Mignon.
Becker?
No, that's number 3. Lilligabot. So. This bit. That's the only extension they've got, unless you're going to do the disgusting version of Humoresque, which I really hope you aren't, which is gross. And not practicing. Thank you. And not practicing shifting. We had quite a few Humoresques in solo concert week without a single shift in them. Well, actually, none without any, because they all did the harmonic at the end. Anyway, right. So basically, they should know how to get there if you've reviewed Lilligabot with them. But essentially, make sure they're not shifting, and then they just kind of stretch as far as they can go. And for most hands, that will take them to the C, as long as they don't shift up and they do actually stretch from the base of the hand. So, ready, play. Good. Now slide, don't hop. Down a semitone. Ready, play. Good, and then to the G. So all of those together will go like this. Slide. Ready, go. Slide. Good, and then, so they would do that for a week, during Bach Bourree. And then the other thing that's tricky about this piece is the up bow slur onto that extension. So we might play as the preview box, or we might put those in. Depends if they're the kind of child that needs the minimum in their box, or if they would like the whole phrase. It doesn't really later because the beginning and the end of it are not difficult. Yeah? So the key thing to make sure of is that they are stretching, not shifting, and then sliding, not hopping. So stretch and slide. What?
I like it.
Okay. Right. So then, to go back to the first box, to turn it into a trill. So once they can play, you would practice this. Let's do that together. Okay, now we'll put that in. Ready, and keep your two on. Good, and then it's difficult for the timing. Yeah, so what you get a lot when they're first learning it is work with them on shortening it. So they have to know that they don't need lots of diddles to get in time. It's more important to get in time than to have what they might consider a trill. I think even if you have two, even if it's only one, I think that's better than obviously doing it out of time. Yeah? So as long as they start on the top and they tap their two at least once, they will have something that is good enough to perform, and then they can refine it as they get used to it. I mean, trills are sort of, most of my students don't find trills hard. I don't really have to teach trills very much. You know, if they've learnt mignon, and then you get to lully, it's very unlikely that you'll need to do really any work on that. And then this is the same, but just starting on the upper note.
And they would have done
And those are the ones in between, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, it's basically just that. It's not even yellow with a hot pink 3, is it? Have you got the colour things there, please? The other one? Yep. Yeah. So it's gold in it.
Always believing it's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Devon, what do you think would be a helpful exercise before you do that?
Doing.
Maybe. Just flesh it out a bit more. If the finger patterns are what's tricky,
Yeah.
what's a good thing to use for the finger patterns? Yep.
Scales?
Yep.
What kind
Is it a scale that they will know?
Yeah.
What? Can you play us the scale you would do with them?
Oh wait.
You're totally thinking about the right thing, you just need to simplify it more. For them to get this box, what are the bits that are going to cause them trouble? Which string, A or E?
A.
Yeah, so how can you give them an exercise to get ready for those first few notes on the A? That's like a scale, but is not a scale. That is a scale,
Yeah.
and it's not the right finger pattern, is it?
Okay.
Kate, to rescue us from our misery. We were talking about it about half an hour ago.
You really think I can remember that far?
I know you can.
Marching.
Yes! Finger marches! Best friends, stretch! Best friends. Yeah? That will sort out this. And then not this. Because they've got to change, so then. And that is yellow with a hot pink 3. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Note it down, please.
You could do the E minor
panic.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Also, once you've got that super stretchy one, is it not easier then to move the two?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I would just do it so that they see that it's not the same.
yeah.
Otherwise you run the risk of... Which sounds quite nice, but it's wrong. Good, and then again you've got those weird slurs and an up bow. Yeah, going from A to E. So you just need to be careful with what their elbow is doing, what their hand is doing, all of those things. And then on the second box, which we've hardly touched on because it's mostly the same as the first, it's that they've got to practice, because that's easy, but what you'll hear loads of times is that they don't make it to the G. So it's that kind of get up, over, land on those, lift, I would say. I wouldn't try and do it on the string. I think if they're doing it on the string, it's too slow. You just wouldn't do that.
I remember learning something about it being a hand movement rather than a full arm movement.
Yeah, you're definitely leading with the hand. Yeah, so the hand leads. Well, the hand always leads towards G, right?
But that, like, maybe that you don't even need your elbow to come. I can't remember.
Well, only if you're going to mess up the
Yeah.
tilt of the bow.
Okay.
I think maybe what you're thinking about is that it might be finger action, but that would be in review because they haven't learned finger action in book 3. They might have flexible fingers, which would be great, but we haven't really done any of what we're both automatically doing right now until book 4. So when they do graduation, yeah. I mean, I just don't really agree, but I know that some people do teach it there. But I think it's a whole arm movement led by the hand, because you've got beautiful resonant strings. There's no reason to be sort of very delicate with it. Like if it was that in review, definitely you would those, so that you get that lightness. But that's what you want. It's a cello piece. You want the big sounds. Cool. So, in terms of the exercises at the bottom of page 23, don't do 6A because it doesn't work for upper note trills. You do 6C, but on the other string as well. But to be honest, mostly I don't really use those. I just use the exercises I showed you, just build it up note by note. But if they want something to look at, shows them what to do, that's helpful.
But then it has the 2 notes in 2 notes, dun 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 dun, rather than single top notes.
Yeah. I don't think we're really going to be worrying about the difference between whether that D is still on or not, because it's going to just sound. I will have a look next time I teach it, exactly what my students do, and notice the minutiae. Right. Oh my goodness, I think we've finished book 3 pieces. Woo! Have a seat and we'll just think about what else is in the book, because it's very tempting to get to the end of the pieces and close the book. So if you don't have a book 3, you can come and hover over my shoulder.
I have one in my bag.
Great. So,
I've got my thing. Thank you, though.
as we've talked about quite a lot in the shifting sessions that we've done, I'm not a massive fan of these shifting exercises, and I think that these are very unmusical and not very beautiful, and I I would rather that the students are practicing their shifting using book 1 pieces, that we're doing ghosties, that they're playing the shifting in book 3 that we've talked about already. We're on page 24.
Seeing bar numbers rather than page numbers out there. I don't know if I've got that.
You might not have photocopied them.
Yeah.
But if you've got a kid who's really into shifting, or you've got a child who really wants to do everything in the book, if they do exist,
Great.
then you can do those. Gavotte, the Martini Gavotte, the bit that's on 25. That's a nice thing to do, and in second position, you might do that in group, you might do it in review. I have never, and probably never will, do the humoresque Dvorak in there because that F sharp on a 4 is just very difficult to pull off, especially if you're on a small violin. Do you know where we are?
Yeah, but I'm in book 2, is that normal?
Oh, whoops. But
Such respect for materials, kids.
it's not. It didn't bend. It's
No,
okay.
it's absolutely true.
You'll just see your kids throwing stuff across the room.
Yeah.
Page 25. I would recommend you do the first one. I would not recommend you do the second one. On page 25? Yeah. Yeah. Gavotte by Becker, fine. I tend to use Becker much more for up by staccato. So it just depends how much review you want to do on it and how much they like it. And then you've got your new musical terms in volume 3. I have to admit, I'm absolutely terrible at teaching my kids the Italian terms for things. But obviously, in terms of sight reading, they need to know the main tempo markings because that tells them what they're aiming for with their sight reading. So you are very much hoping that they will know, and if they don't, you need to get them to learn it, like rallentando, ritardando, lento, adagio, you know, all of those tempo markings. But grazioso, most of them know because it sounds like graceful. Leggero, I don't think many of them know. Largamente, I don't think many of them know. Dies al fine, they do know because obviously it tells them what to do in the B's. And diminuendo and crescendo, they know from ages ago. And now we really are finished and 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Let's have celebratory tea or coffee. Macra. And yes, then we're going to do setting up a Suzuki studio after break, and this afternoon we're doing some book 5. And we're going to get
In the
through.
setting up the Suzuki studio, can we go and do some other practice bits? Or would you recommend that? It depends.
I'd
on
quite
what-
like you to be here because I think you've both got really great insights to share with these two,
Okay,
if that's
fair
all
enough,
right.
yeah.
Joe's like, You have.
Yeah, setting up recently.